Greetings, this is M squared, and we are going to take some formulas and solve for a specific variable in that formula. A lot of times this is more challenging because it doesn't have numbers in it, it has a bunch of letters. So you really have to concentrate on what I do to isolate a variable. If there's addition going on, you need to subtract. If there's multiplication, you need to divide. So it can be a little more challenging. So in this first example, this is our formula. You might recognize that formula. I made this one up, but this one is the formula for the area of a trapezoid. And so these represent base 1 and base 2, and that represents the height. So if I wanted to isolate base 1, to solve for base 1, how would I do that? Well, the first thing I realize is that base 1 is in a parenthesis. So before I do anything in this parenthesis, I must get rid of what's outside. What's outside is being multiplied by this parenthesis. So to get rid of it, I have to divide it. So here's my formula. And I have to divide by this. Well, I'm going to do it separately because to get rid of a 1/2, I could multiply by 2. If I multiply by 2 on that side, it cancels and I'm left with a 1, which is fine because 1 times anything is just whatever that thing was. But whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And then I want to divide by h to get rid of the h. So now I have 2a over h equals b sub 1 plus b sub 2. Much prettier now. Remember, this is what I'm trying to get alone or to isolate. So I need to get rid of this. It's being added to base sub 1, to the base 1, so I need to subtract this. So if I subtract base 2 from both sides, my final answer is b sub 1, or base 1, is equal to 2 times the area over h minus base 2. So that is how I isolate base 1. Okay, moving on, we're going to get h by itself. Same formula, we're just going to get h by itself this time. So area equals 1/2 h times base 1 plus base 2. Now to get rid of h, that means I need to get rid of this and this. Well, to get rid of this, we do the same thing we did on the other one. We multiply both sides by 2. This is being multiplied by h. So to get rid of this whole parenthesis, I just simply divide by that whole parenthesis. It's okay, you can divide by a sum or what's in parentheses. Whoops. So my h then equals 2 times the area over the sum of the bases. Doesn't really matter which side you put h on. You could say h equals this or this equals h. But that's how you do that one. A little simpler. Okay, we're going to try to get y alone on this one. So to get y alone, let's rewrite our formula. Y plus x equals over x equals c. To get y alone, the first thing I want to do is to get rid of my x. So I multiply. Remember, it's being divided. The opposite of division is multiply. So I multiply both sides by x. And when I do that, these cancel, and I'm left with y plus x equals cx. And then it's just a matter of subtracting. If I want to get rid of y, I just subtract x. So I get y equals cx minus x. And that's how to isolate y. Now to isolate x. Well, to isolate x, we kind of do the same thing we did. We can't isolate x if we have two x's on the same side with a division sign. So the first thing we would have done would be to bring the x up top, like we did over here. So I'm just going to rewrite that. Whoops, that was gone because I subtracted it from both sides. So this is what we would have done. Whatever we did here, that's exactly what we would have done to get x alone. So these are the trickiest. Kids really have a hard time with these. When you have an x in the numerator and in a denominator, it's important that you get rid of the denominator and then get all the x's to one side. And once you get all the x's to one side, you can factor out an x. They have a common factor. So I'm going to take an x out of these. And when I do that, it's kind of like dividing. When I say take it out, it means divide. What's cx divided by x? Or what times x equals cx? C. What times x equals x? 1. So I've divided out an x or taken out a common factor of an x. And now I need to get x alone, I need to get rid of this, which is being multiplied by x, so I simply divide. So y divided by c minus 1 equals x. Those are kind of the trickier ones when you have an x on the top and the bottom and you have to get all the x's on one side to factor them out. You know, another thing, if you only have one variable in the denominator, you could also split that up into two fractions, and some people might find that easier. This is kind of a simple one, so you can do it that way. You could say y over x plus x over x equals c, and then y over x plus 1 equals c. And sometimes people might find it easier to work with this to isolate the y and the x here. You can multiply everything by x. So there's sometimes more than one way to do it. You can only split a fraction into two fractions like this if there's only one thing in the denominator. If there's one thing in the numerator, you couldn't do that. So it's another option in case you're stuck. These are challenging. Just step by step, you got to remember what's the opposite, what's happening, and what's the opposite. Those are the two questions you want to ask at each step, and remember to do the same thing to both sides. Good luck. This is M Squared, signing out.